Hey guys, welcome back to another video. In this video, I will be sharing my experience with old Android devices I have been using. I still happen to have a few old phones laying around, and I have reset them to default settings, so they are just like brand new, except they are not, and none of these devices are actually used as main phones anymore. Still, I wanted to see how usable they are, because they all run unsupported versions of Android. The newest of these old phones is a Samsung Galaxy J6, from 2018. It originally had Android Oreo on it, but in 2019, I got an upgrade to Android Pie, and in 2020, I got an upgrade to Android 10. Android 10 is no longer supported, as of March 2023, so this device is now obsolete because of this. Besides this, it still runs just about every app developed for Android, and lots of apps still support Android KitKat, that was made way back in 2013, and Android Lollipop also receives lots of support for apps. It is outdated and has not been supported since 2018. This phone has a good camera, not as good as the one on my newer phone, but not far off it, and the display is reasonable, but it is small compared to newer phones. The battery life isn't great, but this phone has the best battery out of the three phones. Let's move on to the next old phone. The second oldest is this Kogan Agaroo 8, from 2017. This phone runs Android 7.0, Nougat, and it too has seen lots of use. This phone's display is nowhere near as good as the Samsung, but being a Kogan, you would not expect high-end features on a mid-range or budget-built phone. This phone has not been used for years, but besides this, the battery has degraded quite a bit. It no longer holds its charge for a long time, even when powered off. Now let's move on to the third phone. The last phone is a Sony Xperia from 2017, and it also runs Android 7.0, Nougat. This phone is the worst of the three, because it has seen quite a bit of abuse, and the cracked screen says it all, but it also has scuffs and marks on it. This is because it was dropped onto the ground about 4 years ago, and it was never sent to a repair shop for repairs, due to that being too expensive, so it still has that cracked screen from all those years ago. Aside from that, it is safe to use, and it still functions perfectly fine. This phone has battery life that is not great. It's not absolutely terrible, but it cannot hold a decent charge for a great period of time, even when powered off, so the battery life overall is not that good, but it still gets through a day's use, which is good, considering it's 6 years old. None of these devices have ever had the internal parts replaced, and they all use the older style micro USB connector, which has been replaced by USB Type-C. Oh, I also forgot to mention what the specs are of each device. The Samsung has 3 GB of RAM, the Kogan and Sony have about 1 to 2 GB of RAM. The Samsung has 32 GB onboard storage, and the Sony and Kogan only have about 16 GB storage, far too small for most use cases in this day and age, but as a basic phone for testing applications, and stuff like that, they make for great phones. I also use these devices when doing Android tutorials, simply because I do not need the latest and greatest version to run apps I show, and I would rather not use my new phone, as that has personal stuff on it, so this is why I mostly use older devices in my tutorials. I will not be getting rid of these old phones anytime soon, unless of course they go kaputnik, then they will be no good. But until that happens, I'll still use them for making Android-related tutorials. Do you still have old Android devices laying around? If so, do you still use them for anything, or have they kicked the bucket? Let me know down in the comments below. Alrighty, that's it for this video folks. Do remember to like, share, and subscribe, and do enable notifications, so you don't miss out on any future videos. Bye for now.